Hello and welcome to the Bears and Lions podcast. This is the podcast where we challenge our present by viewing our past. I am a firm believer that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past, because when you actually look at it, you're going to see, oh my gosh, life sometimes gives you lemons, sometimes life gives you a curveball. You just never really know, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today in today's episode. And honestly, I missed a couple episodes last week, and I share about why I missed those episodes last week, but I've missed you guys so much. We have a lot going on still in my life and things that I'm really excited about sharing. So much is in store. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure that you hit this follow and share it with somebody. I would love for you to share this with a friend or two and encourage them throughout their week. I can't wait for this conversation. I hope it encourages you, and I'll see you on the other side. We've all heard it, right? We've all heard the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's a saying I feel like it invokes in all of us a certain purpose. Like, I'm going to take a bad thing and make it better, right? Like the song, Hey Jude, right? It's this mentality of being able to take something that's innately sour and making it refreshing, maybe even sweet, but something that is refreshing and delicious. And I like this saying a lot. I've heard it quite a bit. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's something that I think a lot of people will tell themselves during rough moments in life. And as I've grown older, I've really thought about some of those rough moments in life and some of those moments in my life of like, what parts of my life was I given lemons and what did I do with it, or what did I learn from it? Because I'm a fan of failure. I'm just going to preface this. I am a fan of failure. Before I say what I'm about to say, I like failure. I think failure is good. Failure means you're trying 90% of the time. There's a 10% time, which I'm going to talk about here. And here's why I say 90% of the time. I've heard recently multiple people, and I've heard it on social media, I've seen it a couple different times, that there's no such thing as failure. There's only things as lessons. I call BS on that. I do. I call BS on that, because there are times that are pure failure. There are not lessons. There are choices that we made that are pure failures. I think about specific times when I knew what I was doing, and I knew I was hurting somebody. I said things to people, and I knew that it would hurt. It was life gave me lemons, and then I took that lemon and I stuck it inside of a open wound of somebody else. That's not a lesson. That's failure. So I do think that there is like a 10% amount of time that you have to be careful and aware of what's going on around you, of what life is giving you and what you're using. Because as I look back on my life, I noticed life gave me lemons at different moments in my life, but I didn't do anything with those lemons, and they just didn't really do much. I didn't really get a lesson out of it. I just said, cool, lemons. And sometimes that's what happens. And I think we love the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? Because it makes us feel good. But I think life gives us lemons more often than we realize, and then we don't do anything with them. And they just sit around, and then they get moldy. And by the time we've matured, or by the time we look around and realize there are lemons here, they're moldy and unusable, and we get upset like, oh no, like, what are we going to do? Life hasn't given me the opportunities recently. I need fresh lemons. When it's our fault. We didn't do anything with the lemons when they were fresh. We didn't even try. And most of the time it's out of a fear of failure. But really the only failure is the fact that we didn't do anything with that opportunity. We didn't try to do something with it. So I want to kind of talk today about what happens when life gives you certain things. And it's baseball season, so I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to kind of use a baseball analogy, when life gives you curveballs, because you may have noticed this last week I didn't post any episodes. It's the first time I missed 2 episodes in a row ever since I started this podcast. And that was not by design. it was by an unforeseen curveball. So we're gonna I'm gonna just recap this really quick for you. Years ago, about 2-3 years ago, I had a Mercury Grand Marquis. It was a 2000 Mercury Grand Marquis. I called it the boat because it literally would rock on the interstate, and it felt like I was on a boat. And I knew I had the ability where I may move. This was about 2022. I knew I'd started looking at different cities to move to. And I'd started my previous job that I used to work last year. And so my friend who I went to school with, who we may have on the podcast at some point, she said she was selling her Kia Soul, which I had always wanted a Kia Soul. I loved them. I always remember that the hamster commercial when they first came out, and I just thought that they were unique cars. They kind of stood out. They were roomier than most, and they got great gas mileage. They were usually really reliable as well. So I was like, okay, yeah, I want to get this Kia Soul. And I remember I talked to my parents and made this decision of, I need to upgrade cars because I was putting in a decent amount of money into the Mercury Grand Marquis. So I went up and got that car, and it was great. It ran great. She had taken care of it as well. So there was nothing really wrong with it at all. It ran smooth. I loved it. As soon as I sold my Mercury, though, I had 2 cars for a little while, but as soon as I sold my Mercury, the Kia broke down and I had a semi-major repair on it that was costly, but those things happen. I was like, okay, it's fine. Got that fixed. Fast forward to now, I've moved up here and, I haven't had any issues with the Kia and I loved it. And this last week, about 2 weeks ago, I went to Chattanooga. I went back to Chattanooga for training with my company, and I left the Kia at the airport. On my way home, I took the weekend off, last Friday and last Monday off for my birthday, which was last week, or last weekend. And so I took that time off. So as I was driving home, I didn't really have to go anywhere. I stopped at the store, did everything. I could tell something was wrong with the car. It just didn't feel like it was driving the same way. But the check engine light wasn't on. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe it's just been sitting and it just needs to be driven a little bit. Sometimes that happens. Sure enough, I go into the office on Tuesday, no issue. But Tuesday night on the way home, I can tell something's going on with the car. So Wednesday morning of last week, I woke up, checked the oil, and made sure, everything was good. And I start driving. And as soon as I get on the interstate on the way to the gym, I hear a clang, a loud clang. And then a repeated clang while the engine's going. Just clang, 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 clang. And I think maybe something's come loose in the engine. Maybe there's a belt that broke or something like that. But the check engine light's not on and the car's still driving. And I'm literally halfway between my house and the gym. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the gym. And if the car is broken down, I'll get a tow truck from there. I'll have somebody pick me up to go into the office and we'll figure it out. So I drive to the gym, make it there okay, but it's loud, and I check, and I don't see anything. I don't see any loose pieces in the engine. I don't see any broken belts. The check engine light's not on. I turn the car off, turn the car back on, crank the car a couple times. The check engine light doesn't come on, but it is clanking. So I work out, and after I work out, I message a coworker of mine and say, hey, I'm going to drop my car off at the shop. Is it okay if you pick me up? They said, sure. And later on Wednesday afternoon, I get a call from the shop and they say, Mr. Vaught, your Kia has a broken piston inside the engine. We found pieces of metal. We're going to have to replace the engine to keep this car alive. Now, talk about a curveball. I just got this car not long ago, and it's not it's old now. In retrospect, it's older, but it's not super old. And they were like, it's going to be $5,000 to $6,000 to put in a new engine. Just wanted you to know, take your time, figure out what you're going to decide. So this was a curveball on Wednesday, and I really was thrown off because this is when life gives you lemons. What are you going to do with it? When life throws you a complete curveball, what are you going to do with it? And I remember I just called my parents. I said, I just want to make a wise decision. I want to seek wisdom. And I've been reading in Proverbs, and it's so good to hear wisdom out of the Proverbs and things that it shares to seek wisdom. So I called my parents and said, I want to make a wise decision. They said, that's good. I could put $5,000-6,000 down and fix the car, or I could put $5,000-6,000 down on a new car and not have to worry about it because of warranties and things like that for the next few years. So, by Thursday morning, I slept on it Wednesday night. I kind of found a car that I was interested in, talked with my parents about it, prayed about it, and Thursday morning I decided, I knew that I had looked at every different angle and decided to get a new car. Now I'm going from no car payment to having a car payment. So this isn't all like blessings and rainbows and things like that. This is something I tried to stay away from, was debt. And I didn't want this extra car payment. It was unforeseen. It was a complete curveball. And I thought it was interesting just because in those moments that I right after I got off the call with the shop, I just remember I wanted to break down, but I remembered this Bible verse. Psalms 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he rescues those whose spirits are crushed." And when life gives you curveballs, I think it's so important to do the best you can with what you have wherever you are. And I truly believe that God will give you peace with the rest of it, whatever else is going on, because there's certain things that you just can't control. Real quick, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast. A lot of you know I post the audio version on Spotify and iTunes. Some of you may not know that I post the video version of this podcast on YouTube. And in 2024, I'm really focused on building the community engagement as well as the brand of the Bears and Lions podcast. So if you would do me a favor and just really quick, go hit like and subscribe on that YouTube. Share this podcast with a friend. It'll just take you a few moments to share it with your social media, and it would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back to the conversation. And I'm very thankful because that curveball, now I have a new car. Yeah, that's cool. I have debt and car payments and things like that, but we're going to get through it and we're going to work through it because we're doing the best we can with what we have where we are. But I wanted to kind of share that story because there is an aspect of when life gives you lemons that everything is always supposed to turn out well, or everything is always supposed to be something fresh, right? You take a bad song and make it better. And although I have a new car, I am more in debt, which is something that I was very much so trying to fight. I don't want to be in debt. And so I'm not looking at it as yippee. I am looking at it as thank the Lord that he's provided, and I'm really glad that I've worked hard to be where I'm at. But now I've got to work really hard to move forward. In life, sometimes it really does just throw you curveballs. I share that because as I've been going through this last week, I kept finding myself saying, you know what, it's going to be okay. And I kept hearing people, well, at least at least you have a new car. And it's true. At least I have a new car. But I don't want my identity to be in a new car. I didn't want a new car. I don't want my identity to be in being in debt. I want to be free of debt so I can give freely and pursue the things I want to pursue debt free. And there's things in life that I feel like are soft tosses, to go with the baseball analogy. And that's what the Lord laid on my heart this last Thursday and Friday, was that, yeah, I know I didn't want this. This wasn't something that I expected. I stepped up to the plate and I was expecting a fastball and I got a curveball and I struck out swinging. I mean, I just bought this car 2 years ago and now it completely blew up and is unfixable. And I'm in a new city, far from family. I have a couple friends who helped me out, and I'm very thankful for them. But it was not a fun moment. But I was able to get back up and pursue wisdom. And I think God did kind of set up a soft toss with this car where the dealership, they talked with me. They were great. They took care of me. They knew the situation. They worked with me on what was available. Found a reasonably priced car, not something that, I'm just in debt up to my eyeballs. But they helped me. And sometimes life will give you that soft toss. It's like batting practice. And it really kind of just reminds me, and I hope this encourages you, that you'll never know what pitches you're going to get in life. All you can really do is step into the batter's box and step up to the plate every single day and practice and practice and practice. You practice when to swing for the fence and when to let the pitch go. Because not every pitch is going to be hittable. Just like not every time that life gives you lemons are they going to be fresh, perfect lemons. Sometimes life will give you moldy lemons right off the rip because somebody else didn't do anything with those lemons. And sometimes they'll give you situations at work that feel like, why am I being given this situation, or why am I being given this annoying process that I have to take care of, when the reason is somebody else didn't do anything with those lemons. They got molded and they just passed them to you. It's important to remember that sometimes you just need to let those pitches pass by, and other times you need to do everything you can. Because maybe one of you out there is a green thumb, and you can take those moldy lemons and put them in the ground, and it nourishes the plants that you grow something fresh. I don't know how it all works out. And I don't want this podcast to be something that, I just dote on all the things that I'm doing, and I share all these exciting, I moved to Baltimore and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and here's all the wins. I want to be honest with you. I have had losses. And I talked to my dad on that Wednesday night, and I just said, Dad, this hurts. I just bought this car. Like, this hurts. I didn't plan for this. This wasn't on my 2024 bingo card. And you know what? Sometimes life just gives you a curveball, and you've got to do the best you can wherever you are with whatever you have. And trust that, there's going to be a better day. There's going to be more around the corner. So I really hope that you'll kind of look at some of the areas in your life, and maybe you're going through something right now and it feels like life just threw you a curveball. Maybe you lost your job, or maybe you went through a breakup, or lost a loved one or a family member. Whatever it might be, now is the time to seek wisdom. Now is the time to think about it. Okay, what type of lemons do you have? What type of pitches are you getting, to stick with the baseball analogy? Is it a curveball, and have you taken adequate swings to know when to let it go because it's wide outside, or let it rip and try to just swing for the fence because it's dead center down the pipe, fastball, and you're going to catch it and it's going over that left field wall? I really hope that you'll be encouraged to step into the batter's box tomorrow and take a swing, no matter what it is, because you don't know what life is going to throw at you. Take a swing and swing hard and learn. Learn from each swing. Yes, I agree that failure is good. You can learn from it, but don't seek it. Don't step into the batter's box and say, I'm looking to strike out today to learn. No, you're looking to hit a home run. Step into the batter's box and look for that home run. Look for that pitch that you just connect with. and swing for the fence. That's going to do it for this conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you that listen. If you want to find me on my socials, you can find me on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, at Kyle Vaught. That's KYLEV as in Victor ATT. I'm also on Instagram and Threads at Kyle_Vaught. And I would love to get connected. If there's ever a topic that you want me to discuss, add me on Instagram or add me on X. Shoot me a message, a DM, and just say, hey, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you will have a wonderful week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.